Whenever you pick a glass of water to drink or your phone to type on, have you ever stopped to think of what these objects and even you are made of? Come with me as we delve into the world of the atoms. Atom. What is an atom? An atom is regarded to be the fundamental basic unit of an element. Element, which we've looked at in one of our classes, is made up of only one type of an atom. The nature of the atom was not known until the 19th century when an English chemist, John Dalton, put forth a theory that describes the nature of the atom. We define an atom as the smallest particle of an element which can take part in a chemical reaction. We can also define an atom as the smallest part of an element that can ever exist and still possesses the chemical properties of that element. I hope you got that right. Okay, so let's take down the definition of an atom. So we have the definition of an atom on the board, and we define an atom as the smallest particle of an element which can take part in a chemical reaction, or an atom is defined as the smallest part of an element which can ever exist and still possesses the chemical properties of that element. I hope you got that definition. Most atoms cannot exist alone. What they do is that they bond with other atoms to form molecules. A molecule can be made up of atoms of the same element or atoms of different elements. Let's look at examples of some of the molecules that are made up of atoms of the same element and the others that are made up of atoms of different elements. On the board, we have examples of molecules. On one part of the table is molecules of atoms of the same element, and on this part of the table is molecules of atoms coming from different elements. So under atoms of the same element, we have chlorine molecule. Cl2 is a chlorine molecule, while Cl only is chlorine atom. Cl cannot exist by itself, so it needs to bond with another Cl, that is chlorine atom, to form Cl2. So Cl2 is coming from one chlorine atom bonding with another chlorine atom. One chlorine atom bonds with another chlorine atom and they form Cl2. And this is the stable form in which chlorine exists as a gas. So Cl2 is a molecule of chlorine. Another example of a molecule of an atom coming from the same element is oxygen. This is oxygen gas, a molecule of an oxygen gas. This molecule of oxygen gas is made up of two oxygen atoms. The next example is hydrogen. Hydrogen, we have two atoms of hydrogen that pair together to form what? Hydrogen gas. So the gaseous nature of most elements is as molecules. Most gases cannot exist independently, so they need to bond with each other. Two atoms of those elements that makes up these gases needs to bond in order to form what? The molecule of those gases, which they exist as. Now, looking at molecules of atoms of different elements, we have sodium chloride. A molecule of sodium chloride is coming from two elements, which are what? Sodium and chlorine. So sodium, an atom of sodium and an atom of chlorine paired to form sodium chloride. Another example we have on the board is magnesium tetraoxosulfate 6. This is magnesium tetraoxosulfate 6. We have a total of 6 atoms that make up a molecule of magnesium tetraoxosulfate 6. And these 6 atoms are 1 atom of magnesium plus 1 atom of sulfur and 4 atoms of oxygen, giving us a total of what? 6 atoms that came together to make up a molecule of magnesium tetraoxosulfate 6. Now we have aluminium hydroxide. I want you to mention the number of atoms that make up this compound, aluminium hydroxide. How many atoms make up a molecule of this compound, aluminium hydroxide? I'll be waiting for your answer in the comment section. And these examples we have on the board. On this side of the board, where we have molecules of atoms of the same elements. These molecules here are molecules of elements. Okay, so these are molecules of elements, while the examples here are molecules of what? Compounds. Okay, so this means that most compounds exist as molecules. Let's take down the definition of a molecule. We have the definition of a molecule on the board. A molecule is defined as the smallest particle of an element or a compound which can exist alone and still possesses the chemical properties of that element or a compound. I want you to note the difference between this definition of a molecule and the definition of an atom. In the case of an atom is the smallest particle of an element alone. But coming to molecule, a molecule is the smallest particle of either an element or a compound. I hope you understood that, right? Okay, let's proceed. We have a molecule is defined as the smallest particle of an element or a compound which can exist alone and still possesses the chemical properties of that element or a compound. Examples of a molecule, I already gave that earlier, but let me remind us. We have chlorine gas, a molecule of chlorine gas represented as Cl2. A molecule of oxygen gas represented as what? O2. We have a molecule of sodium chloride, which is represented as NaCl. A molecule of aluminium hydroxide, which is represented as this. Remember, I asked you to find the number of atoms present in a molecule of aluminium hydroxide. There's another interesting part of a molecule that I would like us to look at, and that is atomicity. When we look at the number of atoms of an element present in a molecule of that element, we term that atomicity. We will continue with this topic in our next class. See you shortly on the topic atomicity.